Welcome to the Rise Above Project. I'm your host, Joe Perroni. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, champion bodybuilder, and I've been a personal trainer for about 30 years. This podcast is about helping people with their emotional, spiritual, and physical fitness. I value strength, toughness, and truth. I despise complacency, the victim mentality, and following the herd. If you find my work to be valuable, please subscribe to my channel and tell a friend. Today I want to read a children's story to highlight some ideas that I want to talk about today. I also invite you to come up with your own ideas and figure out what it means to you. The book is called The Giving Tree, and it was written by Shel Silverstein. The Giving Tree is a classic children's story, and I think it's great because it's been my experience that it becomes more impactful and offers more important life lessons when you are an adult. For a child, it is a deceptively simple story about the relationship between a boy and a tree. The book has only 625 words and is 64 pages long, including pictures, which has made it a perfect bedtime story since it was released in 1964. Shel Silverstein had endured over 4 years of rejections before finding a publisher for his book, and it has since sold over 10 million copies. This made him a very popular writer in the children's stories genre, which is really interesting because he was also best friends with Hugh Hefner, and he was one of Playboy's most prolific writers. The Giving Tree means different things to different people. Some of the meanings and interpretations include unconditional love, abuse, self-sacrifice, generosity, narcissism, codependence, and many more, but I will leave it up to you, the listener, to come to your own conclusions. Many people see the relationship between the tree and the boy as a representation of a relationship between a mother and a child, or maybe two aging friends, and some see it as a relationship between Mother Nature and human beings. And before I start the story, I want to warn everyone, and I want everybody to keep in mind that Shel Silverstein, he hated happy endings in children's stories. He believed that cheery conclusions, and I'm quoting here, create alienation in young readers. He explained by saying, and I'm quoting again, "The child asks why I don't have this happiness thing that you're telling me about, and comes to think when his joy stops that he has failed and that it won't come back," unquote. So here is The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein. Once there was a tree, and she loved a little boy. And every day the boy would come, and he would gather her leaves and make them into crowns and play king of the forest. He would climb up her trunk and swing from her branches and eat apples. And they would play hide and go seek. And when he was tired, he would sleep in her shade. And the boy loved the tree very much. And the tree was happy. But time went by, and the boy grew older, and the tree was often alone. Then one day the boy came to the tree, and the tree said, "Come, boy, come and climb up my trunk and swing from my branches and eat apples and play in my shade and be happy." "I am too big to climb and play," said the boy. "I want to buy things and have fun. I want some money." "I'm sorry," said the tree, "but I have no money. I have only leaves and apples. Take my apples, boy, and sell them in the city. Then you will have money and you will be happy." And so the boy climbed up the tree and gathered her apples and carried them away. And the tree was happy. But the boy stayed away for a long time, and the tree was sad. And then one day the boy came back, and the tree shook with joy, and she said, "Come, boy, climb up my trunk and swing from my branches and be happy." "I am too busy to climb trees," said the boy. "I want a house to keep me warm," he said. "I want a wife, and I want children, so I need a house. Can you give me a house?" "I have no house," said the tree. "The forest is my house. But you may cut off my branches and build a house. Then you will be happy." And so the boy cut off her branches and carried them away to build his house. And the tree was happy. But the boy stayed away for a long time. And when he came back, the tree was so happy she could hardly speak. "Come, boy," she whispered, "come and play." "I am too old and sad to play," said the boy. "I want a boat that will take me far away from here. Can you give me a boat?" "Cut down my trunk and make a boat," said the tree. "Then you can sail away and be happy." And so the boy cut down her trunk and made a boat and sailed away. And the tree was happy, but not really. And after a long time, the boy came back again. "I am sorry, boy," said the tree, "but I have nothing left to give you. My apples are gone." "My teeth are too weak for apples," said the boy. "My branches are gone," said the tree. "You cannot swing on them." "I am too old to swing on branches," said the boy. "My trunk is gone," said the tree. "You cannot climb." "I am too tired to climb," said the boy. "I am sorry," sighed the tree. "I wish that I could give you something, but I have nothing left. I am just an old stump. I am sorry." "I don't need very much now," said the boy. "Just a quiet place to sit and rest. I am very tired." "Well," said the tree, straightening herself up as much as she could. "Well, an old stump is good for sitting and resting. Come, boy, sit down. Sit down and rest." And the boy did. And the tree was happy. The end. All right, there are many important points to this story. And I'm sure everybody has their own point of view. So I'm going to mention a couple of thoughts about what it means to me, and I hope you have your own thoughts as well. I see the story as a relationship between a parent and a son. More specifically, a mother and her son. And the main point that stands out for me is the amount of self-sacrifice and unconditional love that a parent can have for a child. As a child, I don't think I had any idea how much sacrifice my mother went through in order to raise me and my sister. My parents were divorced when I was 5 years old, and my mother worked many minimum wage jobs, usually more than one at a time. And we didn't have a lot of money, especially compared to most of the people that I went to school with, but it didn't matter. There wasn't one day where I didn't feel loved, and I don't remember any times where I wasn't the focal point of my mother's life. So although we didn't have any money, we were never poor. I was rich in many different ways. One of the things that I've learned as a therapist is that there is no trauma that can't be mitigated or improved with the love and support from a good relationship. I was lucky to have that relationship when I was born. I believe it is the number one reason why I have been able to overcome obstacles and reach goals. And right before my mother died, she said that she had a good life, although other people might say that she didn't do very much with it. She said that bringing 2 good kids into the world was her biggest accomplishment, and that was more than enough. I've spent most of my life trying to make a positive difference in the world to prove that all my mom's efforts were worthwhile. In trying to be the best person, trainer, and therapist I can be, I am extending my mother's values into the world, and she lives through my actions. In the giving tree, I get angry at the boy and sad for the tree, because the tree continuously gives everything that she has to provide and make the boy happy, and yet the boy does nothing but demand and take. In the end, they both end up old and defeated. I see lost opportunities, such as the boy could have planted seeds from the apple tree. This would have allowed the generosity of the tree to be multiplied. It would have ensured more generations of children to have a place to climb, eat apples, and to sleep in the shade. But obviously, this is just my personal projection. I wonder what yours is. I believe it's important to understand the difference between generosity and self-sacrifice. There are too many people in the world who feel guilty for doing anything for themselves or for taking any time for their own enjoyment. Just the thought of putting themselves first makes them feel irresponsible, guilty, and less purposeful. Many people like to be needed even more than being wanted. Unfortunately, focusing on the well-being of others is many times met with a lack of appreciation and a list of more demands. The giver becomes angry and hurt, while the taker is never satisfied. The relationship between someone who is too selfless with someone who is too selfish is emblematic of a dysfunctional, codependent dynamic. As a therapist who is rooted in existential humanism, I believe that having meaning and purpose is the single most important factor in building a meaningful life with as little needless suffering as possible. However, if your meaning and purpose is to serve others' needs without considering your own, then you are volunteering for abuse. One of the saddest aspects of the human condition is the need to connect at any cost in order to stay relevant and avoid loneliness and despair. I was aware of this in the growing tree because my mother always loved being a mom, and that was her aspiration in life from when she was just a little girl. But unfortunately, she never found any hobbies she liked, and she didn't find any meaningful work that helped her to be economically mobile. This lack of meaning and purpose in her life, beyond being a mother, was detrimental as she got older. Although she was a great mom, I was always concerned when my sister and I became independent because my mom was prone to depression when not feeling needed. I see this in many of my patients who are willing to endure destructive relationships, abuse, and superficial sexual relationships just to have anything that seems like it might be a connection. In my experience, I have seen many people who would rather be abused and used instead of feeling lonely. They feel it is better to have some meaning and purpose by serving and connecting to someone, even if their efforts are not returned or appreciated. Many times I've been asked, why don't people just walk away from bad relationships? The answer is that codependents who are relationship addicts, who take too much responsibility for the relationship, they are in more pain from being alone and not needed than they are from being abused and needed. In the giving tree, it pains me to read that the tree is sad whenever the boy doesn't need her and stays away for a long time. And it's even more painful when the tree admits that she is not really happy after giving everything of herself to maintain this connection. The word generosity means the virtue of being liberal with kindness and giving. The term self-sacrifice means to give up one's own interests or something of value for someone else. With these definitions, you can surmise that too much self-sacrifice is not healthy and has its roots in early childhood trauma. In general, people who are too self-sacrificing have difficulty drawing boundaries and have difficulty saying the word no. Therefore, they are vulnerable to be surrounded by those who feel entitled, don't value them, and may be predatory. It is virtuous to be generous, but it's a faulty belief to think it's always necessary to put other people's needs above your own. Helping people too much denies others the learning and growth that takes place when someone is supported and expected to demonstrate personal responsibility. Enabling people is not compassionate because it continues the person's incompetence, which hurts their self-esteem. Psychoanalyst Dr. Winnicott coined a phrase in 1953 called the good enough mother. And he said that not only does the perfect mother not exist, it is actually beneficial for a mother to not be perfect. If it were possible for a mother to be perfect, then their child would be too delicate, fragile, and unable to cope with the difficulties of life. People need distress tolerance skills, and too much comfortableness doesn't create resilience. If you want to be perfect and to protect something for its full lifespan, then get a dog. It works for me. All babies are born naked, needy, and dependent, and need to feel loved, safe, and secure. And this is done by responding to their every need as soon as possible. But this type of undivided attention parenting isn't supposed to last throughout their lifespan. As the child grows up, they need to know that they do not run the household. The world does not revolve around them, and that parents are not their servants. Parents are also not their friends. It is sometimes a thankless job, but parents need to be well acquainted with correcting their children, as well as having to deny them and ultimately disappointing them at times. Spoiling children and not giving them rules and requirements may make children happy in the short term. However, in the long term, they may experience lifelong anxiety from not having structure and a strong, stable voice of reason in their life. As long as a child is loved and emotionally supported, allowing them to feel and deal with uncomfortable emotions and situations trains them well for the real world, develops self-esteem, and creates autonomy. And to be clear, I'm not saying it's okay to abuse your child, but I am saying that a child needs rules, structure, age-appropriate responsibilities, and not to be saved from their difficult feelings. A good enough parent realizes that their imperfections are perfect, that their imperfections prepare their children for the realization that no one is perfect. Children need to learn that loving people isn't predicated on their ability to be without flaws. Failing your child in manageable ways and not always immediately saving your child from emotions such as boredom and frustration will teach them to be resilient. Parents should come to the realization that parenting should not become an exercise in complete self-sacrifice. Children ultimately derive more benefit from a parent who can model how to live life by creating time for their own physical, psychological, and social well-being. I have plenty more to say about the Giving Tree, but I think I will leave it at that for today because I wasn't planning on making an exhaustive analysis of this book. I would much prefer that everyone else think about what the Giving Tree means to them and to maybe share the story with someone else who could benefit by it. I hope you liked today's show. I am Joseph Perroni from the Rise Above Project. Please subscribe and tell a friend. Thank you.